Welcome. This is the Expletive Jets. I'm Gemma. When I'm recording this, it is the first week of training camp. This is the time of year where I think every fan base has a lot of optimism, as they should. Now, as a Jets fan, does that mean I have tons of expectations, hopes, and optimism for this team? No. But I am excited for football, 100%. I'm excited for the Jets, as much as they sucked. I do miss watching them, as frustrated as I get, and if anyone watches games with me, they know how frustrated I get, and it seems like I'm not enjoying myself, because I'm really not. But point is, it's been long enough to where I'm ready to watch the Jets again, suffer, get frustrated, get angry, but I'm getting ready for it. So with that being said, today's an interesting topic for me because this is perhaps the least optimistic thing I feel for the Jets, which is coaching. I hate talking about it. I do not like to discuss it. I feel like it's a huge question mark, and I know a lot of fans are ready to move on from Aaron Glenn. I am not ready to move on from Aaron Glenn. I'm not happy with his performance last year as a coach. I think he really struggled in his first year, and I think he kind of seemed to be a bit over his head. But with that being said, I'm not ready to say, can Aaron Glenn? I don't know how that would be a good thing for the Jets. So let me rewind a bit, take us back to the moment AG was hired before the 2025 season. I think he was welcomed by a lot of the fans, and I think people were excited for the hire. I mean, at the time of his hire, he was probably the highest regarded defensive coordinator. He really did a great job with that Lions team. He was there for the rebuild with Detroit, so you saw what it took to turn a program around, a franchise around that struggled for years and get it to that elite level, contending level. So I think a lot of people were optimistic about that. Talented coach as far as defensive side of the ball and experience witnessing a huge turnaround for a franchise. Obviously, the other part of this is Aaron Glenn was a Jet himself years ago, and a pretty damn good one. So I think a lot of fans were excited to have that back, have him come back and return, because he had a lot of fans here when he was a player. The other side of that is he wanted this job. Because he had ties with the organization as a player, he wasn't a coach who was shying away from it. He had other opportunities. New Orleans was interviewing him, I know, and he chose the Jets. How many times have people, players, coaches, passed because it's the New York Jets and they don't want to get involved? Part of that being Woody Johnson. That man needs to go. But point is, despite all the flaws of this team, Aaron Glenn decided, I'm going to come to the New York Jets. I want to be the guy who turns this thing around, because I think he does care about this organization. Now, all of these things don't really make him a good coach, but it made him easy to root for when he first arrived, and I think he had a lot of support. All that goodwill, he burned through quickly. He burned through all that goodwill in the first year, and I think, 60% of the fan base, 60% of the fan base would say, fire Aaron Glenn. He should not even be getting a year two. But as fair as that is to say, and I understand why fans want to just move on from him, I think that's a huge problem with this organization, is the lack of stability. Look, if Aaron Glenn is not the guy, he's not the guy. They need to move on from him. But last year was a tough indicator. And I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses for Aaron Glenn, but let's be honest, with the roster the Jets had, the lack of talent they had, would the head coach have made it that much of a difference? I don't think so. I think you also look at the staff he brought in, which, again, is his fault. He's the guy who hired them. But who did he hire? Tanner Angstrand, who was a friend of his from Detroit, who he knew, was comfortable with. Steve Wilks, who he had some ties with, very similar style of coaching, who also had head coaching experience. Not a great coach, but I think he kind of just went with people that he knew and was familiar with. And as a first-year head coach, it makes sense. You don't really know what you want to do, so you're going to need to rely on others to help you out. I'm hoping he learned from year one, which I, I think in any job that anyone does, they would say the same thing, right? Year one, the first time you do it, it's probably going to be the worst you are at it, right? Right. Hopefully he's taken some lessons and learned. So as far as the talent he had around him on the field and coaching alongside him, I don't think it was the greatest. Now that doesn't get him off the hook scot-free. He looked lost and overwhelmed at points last year far too often. Game management just seemed to elude him, I think, at times. But more importantly, which I think is what really makes it hard for even me, who is saying don't fire Glenn because I want the stability in this organization, and I really do want him to be the guy. Because think about it, best case scenario, Aaron Glenn figures it out. He is the guy. We don't have to start a coaching search all over again. And if the Jets show improvement, Aaron Glenn shows improvement, we're that much closer to contending. Whereas having to go back out on the hunt for a coach, it creates a lot more questions. And maybe you get the right guy, maybe you don't. And who knows what happens, and we're all back to square one. But the last 5 weeks is what makes it really difficult, I think, to say that Aaron Glenn is going to figure this out. The last 5 weeks of 2025 were brutal, and I put a lot of that on coaching. To get blown out 5 consecutive weeks to end the season, I mean, to me, what does that say? The team gave up. Defense those last 5 weeks was abysmal, and you can't say they were tanking because they fired Steve Wilks. So I mean, if they were tanking, why not let Steve Wilks finish the year? He was doing a great job of that. So obviously that wasn't the case. I don't think anyone really truly tanks in the NFL. I think everyone's competing every week, regardless of record. But to not be competitive, to show such little fight, those last 5 weeks, it wasn't just once or twice, it was 5 consecutive weeks of just getting decimated, embarrassed, which the Jets seem to do really well, embarrass themselves. That didn't give a lot of optimism, produce a lot of faith in Glenn's coaching ability moving forward. But again, it was bad. I mean, you were playing Brady Cook. The offense had really no talent. Aaron Glenn was hurt. Not Aaron Glenn, sorry. Garrett Wilson was hurt. Obviously, again, Brady Cook is quarterback. The defense at this point, obviously weeks ago Quinnen and Sauce went, and it just seems like guys were out there who shouldn't be, which is true, but also even those who did belong on the field seem to have packed it in for the year, which is an indictment against Aaron Glenn and his coaching staff. So obviously I think Glenn is on the hot seat. I think if he has another year like last season, he's gone. I don't think that's a good thing. I know a lot of people in this fan base like to root for losing, which makes no sense to me. Oh, we need the higher draft pick. We need the higher draft pick. Tank. We need Aaron Glenn fired. We need his... We've been doing it for 15 years. We've been doing this for 15 years. Tanking, sucking, embarrassing ourselves. Has it worked? Has it? No, it hasn't. I think the only way to resolve this is to start winning. Now, as far as Aaron Glenn saving his job for the future, I don't think I can put a win total on it. Obviously, if it's anything less than 5 or 6 wins, I think it's a pretty easy decision to make. Even if it is 5, 6 wins, 6 wins is what I am predicting for the Jets. I know that's not good, but it depends what those wins look like and what the losses look like. You can't just evaluate it on he won this number of games, his job is safe. I mean, if they win 6 games, but every other game they lose is a blowout and they're not competitive, what are we doing? So I'm really excited to see how Glenn has grown, hopefully. Again, I think I am a more optimistic fan, but I think it makes sense to root for the guys who are here in the building, coaches and players, to be successful rather than hope on their downfall and hate on them. I know that's easy to say and it makes you sound like a homer or a shill, but I think it's better for the franchise overall if Aaron Glenn can figure it out and stay on board as the head coach. Again, if he's not up to the job, he's not up to the job, and they have to move on. So what does this look like? It looks like a developed offense and defense. I mean, it just has to be better. They need to be a team that is competing. Looks like Aaron Glenn knows what's going on in games, can manage situations, and can kind of take the bull by the horn, so to speak. If his staff is letting him down, he needs to be quicker to make decisions and step in. Last year, he said he wanted to be a CEO coach. That's changing this year. He wants to be the DC guy, kind of. Give the other half of the job, the OC, to Frank Reich. I think Aaron Glenn needs to be involved. Look, Aaron Glenn needs to be able to say, if things aren't going right on the offense side of the football, I have to have some game plan to insert and take this bull by the horns because it's his job. So if he doesn't, that's it. He's done. So that's what I'm hoping to see from Aaron Glenn. And like I said, I don't like to really talk about it because I feel like every Jets fan I bump into is pitchforks out and the mob's after this man. And I just hate having to talk to people about, oh, you want to lose? You want to fire Aaron Glenn? How is that fun? How are you looking forward to another year? And again, I get it. You're a Jets fan. You're not looking forward to anything, really. But how can you go into the year? It's August. Training camp just started and we're already giving up? Oh, my gosh. Whew. I don't know. That stuff kind of gets me. Aaron Glenn's staff. Let's talk about that. His sidekicks this year. Change from Tanner Engstrand to Frank Reich. I think Tanner Engstrand got off easy last year because, Justin Fields is his quarterback. What can he do? And your number one wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, gets hurt. What do you want Tanner Engstrand to do? He coached with Ben Johnson. He must be a good coach. It must be the players. There's a lot of things There's a lot of things Tanner Engstrand did that didn't make sense. Primarily, the one that I ask week after week is, it's third down. Why is Breece Hall coming off the field? Especially when Garrett Wilson was hurt. Your only threat on offense was Breece Hall. Oh, let's take him off the field in a critical down situation. Makes no sense. Didn't do a lot to help Justin Fields or support Justin Fields. Kind of just a lack of creativity. I think, if you watch film, you'll see, guys were open and Justin Fields didn't hit them. Well, that's Justin Fields, but maybe the offense should have been designed in a way to play to Justin Fields' strengths more so and not try to convert him into some passing quarterback who's taking straight dropbacks. So I think Tanner Engstrand, maybe he can be a good OC. I'm not saying he's not, but I think for where the Jets were in their development and the players they had, he was not a good fit. Frank Reich, I mean, it's been a few years since he's really had any football relevancy in the NFL. He's obviously has had success in the past, so the question is can he still have success in today's NFL? Do his schemes and systems, will they work? Will it jive with the players he has currently? I think he had a lot of input on bringing in Geno Smith, which is good. I want the guy who's going to be calling plays and designing the offense to have the personnel that fits his offense. I think, fortunately for Frank Reich, he has a lot more talent than Engstrand did. You go into the rookies of Omar Cooper Jr., Kenyon Sadiq. Obviously, Garrett Wilson's going to be back healthy. You got Breece Hall, Mason Taylor. So there's a lot more to work with than last year, which is good for Frank Reich. I'm not holding out hope that he's going to be some great OC that we saw from years ago, that he was in the past. But I do think it has a good chance of being an improvement over Tanner Engstrand. I think him and Geno Smith will have more success than Justin Fields and Tanner Engstrand. Defensive side of the ball. So Wilkes obviously fired mid-season last year. I was, at the time of his hire, I was a fan of it, I'll admit. Why I liked the hire at the time before the season started, I liked that they were getting that Aaron Glenn, an inexperienced head coach, was bringing on a guy who had head coaching experience. Now, was Steve Wilkes a great head coach? Yeah, not really. But having someone to just bounce ideas off of who's been there before could be helpful. It wasn't. I think a big issue with the Wilkes hire is that him and Aaron Glenn had very like mindset, very old school sort of defensive style, which I don't think matches up with today's modern style of play. I think there's a balance, and I think what you're seeing Aaron Glenn do this year is, yeah, he's really taking the reins over the defense. They did hire Duker from Miami, who was a defense backs coach. Duker's young, very inexperienced. I think, he's going to be obviously involved in this. He is in name the defensive coordinator, but really, this is what Glenn is doing this year. Anything that goes wrong with the defense is entirely Aaron Glenn's fault this year. He has taken on 100% ownership of it, and as I think he should have. He should have done so earlier with how bad things were going with Steve Wilkes. So I think Duker is like his little sidekick, Robin to his Batman. Glenn did say that play calling is his superpower. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I don't think he's maybe the greatest scheme guy. I think he does know how to install a defense, though, and I think he can get players to be in positions of success really well. I think that's what you saw him do in Detroit, which made him such a great defensive coordinator there, and I think he'll have that ability here. We will see. If the defense is a mess, Aaron Glenn is going to have a really hard time defending himself because he has taken complete ownership over that. What I think I am most excited for, shifting back to the offensive side of the ball, is the changing quarterback coach. Last year's quarterback coach was Charles London, who was a running back in the NFL. And prior to this, a running back coach. Why would you have a running back coach be a quarterback coach? Maybe because it was Justin Fields and he can't throw the ball and he's more of a runner. I don't know. But either way, it was stupid. So thankfully they moved on from him and they'll be bringing in Bill Musgrave. I don't know if Bill Musgrave is going to bring that much of a difference to the game for Geno Smith. But I'll tell you what, it's better than having a running back try to teach a quarterback how to play quarterback. Just common sense. The other thing I'm excited for on the offense side of the ball is Seth Ryan, Rex Ryan's son. I think it's a good story. He's a passing game coordinator type guy. I don't know how much influence he'll have. I think it's exciting to get a young mind in here who is a bit creative and can kind of be the opposite to Frank Reich, right? Frank Reich is older, maybe a little bit more dated. Maybe Seth Ryan can come up with some ways to add some twists and spunk to the offense. If nothing else, it's a cool connection to Rex Ryan. I'm sure we'll talk about that as the season goes on. But truly the most exciting hire that the Jets made, it came on the defensive side of the ball, and that is Carl Dunbar. Maybe longtime Jets fans recognize the name. He was here years ago. Since he left, he went to Pittsburgh. He is a defensive line coach, and he is held in high regard around the league. He has had a lot of success working with a lot of talented guys, both on the Jets and the Steelers, and he's been doing it a long time. I think he's a guy who could have moved up the ladder, the coaching ladder, so to speak, but I think he enjoys what he does, and he does resonate well with the players, and is good at what he does, really good. And I think he'll be more of a help to this defense than Duker. I think him and AG are really going to be the two guys running this thing. And I'm excited. I think that's a great hire. I really do. I think Carl Dunbar, having him come back, also says a lot about Aaron Glenn as a coach. I know, obviously, change occurred in Pittsburgh, which is probably why he left, but to come back to a franchise you've already been at that you know has been dysfunctional, you got to believe in something, right? Same with Frank Reich. To come back I mean, yeah, maybe he's desperate for a job. That could be it. But to come to an organization as much of a mess that is the Jets, with terrible ownership in Woody Johnson, who may fire you tomorrow because he's impulsive and a giant baby, to come here means you got to believe in something. And I think that something is Aaron Glenn. Again, he needs to prove it, he being Aaron Glenn, needs to prove it on the field this year. And so that's the big question mark. Just to mention two special teams, obviously we still got Banjo, who did a phenomenal job, was the only guy who really stayed on Aaron Glenn's staff, and deservingly so. He did a really great job last year, and I'm hoping to see some more success from him again. So yeah, coaching. It's a big unknown, but I think we should all be rooting for Aaron Glenn and this coaching staff to figure it out, to be successful, to show us improvement. If you're rooting for losses, if you're rooting for failure, don't talk to me. I'm not going to have a lot of fun in that conversation. But yeah, it's August. It's the first week of training camp. Vets just reported. It's the time of the year to be optimistic. So let's put our faith in this coaching staff, even though we'll probably get burned. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this segment. Next episode, I've been requested to talk about the drought and basically just some sad, disappointing facts about the world in relation to the Jets and some milestones that they've hit, bad milestones. So a couple buddies asked me to talk about that. So that'll be a quick little sad, deprecating episode. But yeah, that'll be what's up next. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you guys in the next one.